Hello. Here's what the Bible says. Also, Jesus told them a parable to the effect that they are to always pray and not to faint or not become cowardly or lose heart and give up. Someone once wrote, say your prayers tonight, but unless tomorrow you can act on them, they are not worth much. Dr. E. Stanley Jones, one of my favorite writers, in his book, The Christ of Every Road, tells the following story. I once came down from Almore over one of the worst winding roads of the world. The driver of the bus had never driven in the Himalayas before, and it happened that on his first trip, the previous day, he had almost gone over one of those terrifying cliffs. He was nervous, so before starting back he came to the front of the engine and stood with folded hands, saying his prayers to the machine or to the bus. That done, he writes, we started off, but had not gone far when the engine began to overheat. There was no water in the radiator. There was no remedy. But when we were still many miles from our destination, the engine stopped while going up a hill, says Jones. There was no gas in the tank. There we stayed until rescued. The driver then said his prayers to the engine again, but put no water in the radiator and no gas in the tank. Why not start off today with gas in your tank? On the offensive. That's right. Put some water and gas in your engine. Couldn't you begin by putting your prayers into action? What definite right things will you do to replace some of the wrong things you have been doing in your life starting today? I mean, what particular hill will you take today? Or will you set a 0 hour in the day to go over some challenging hill that has stood as an obstacle in your life? Start all over again if you must. Why not list some of these things and write them down and create an opposition or launch an offensive program to them so you might win over them? Just imagine yourself in Apostle Paul or in Apostle Peter or a tough soldier fighting in a war or a Martin Luther King Jr. fighting for human rights on a journey in civil rights, or that quiet friend or parent of yours who is like the still water that runs deep, but whose life overflows with good deeds which brings rewards beyond measure. Better still, make a program or design a written plan that will be satisfied with nothing less than your own self at your very best at all times today. Listen to me. A thrilling spiritual adventure awaits you, but it will take courage today. The men and women who dared were the first pioneers to cross all kinds of injustices in this nation. They were the frontline men and women, even in the Great War. Courage challenged their inner resources. And some of them were even sent out without guns, but they bare knuckles, those black soldiers in particular. They balled their fist up and went out after the enemy. So remember this. You cannot climb your spiritual heights without that same courage to loosen the powers that lie within you. Don't be discouraged. If you fail in your first efforts, keep on going. Accept the failure and know that you're going to win on tomorrow. You know, there was a coach by the name of Coach Meehan who was a coach of the New York University. He used to say these very words. We learn practically nothing from a victory. All of our information comes from a defeat. A winner forgets most of his mistakes. Say your prayers tonight, but unless tomorrow you can act on them, they are not worth much. Never forget the parable when Jesus talked to his disciples to the effect that they ought to always to pray and not turn to being cowardly. Don't faint. Don't lose heart. Don't give up. Keep on keeping on. That's my message to you today. Have a blessed day.
All right.